I'm Jim Czek. You're watching Now Media. With me, Minister Terry Young. He's the Minister of State, Community Safety and Integrated Service. That's a mouthful, right? And also the MLA for Vancouver Yaletown. Lots going on in your portfolio, though. We did an interview with Jeremy Heighton from the BIABC, and that survey has caused a little bit of a stir for sure. And that, they're saying 1 in 5 businesses say they won't survive another year without some support, right? 67% report street disorder. I'm sure you've seen all these numbers. 74% say there's conditions of increased fear and anxiety for staff. 57 report a reduction in customer street traffic. But the bigger thing is just these ongoing expenses, and then the mayor of Kelowna also sent a letter to Sean Fraser there asking for bail reform, and then he highlighted one of the things here, saying that one of the offenders, and I'm sure you're familiar with all this stuff, one of the offenders had accumulated 223 files. And you'll understand that as a previous police officer, and then 31 failures to comply, and then 32 failures to appear in court in that. So how do businesses deal with all this?
Good morning, Jim, and thank you for having me. We hear you. Street disorder and safety concerns are impacting your businesses. No surprise, your staff and your customers are affected, and that's not acceptable. The province is taking action with targeted enforcement programs like C-STEP and SITE. As a matter of fact, C-STEP has dedicated over $270,000 to Kelowna RCMP enforcement programs alone. And we're working directly with Kelowna's business leaders and police to restore safety and confidence in your downtown. You deserve a safe, vibrant community to do business, and we are committed to making that happen and making the change that are needed.
You're a previous police officer, 30 years on the force, and it's kind of changed, I guess. You know what I mean? Since when's the last time you were actually active in, like, when did you leave the force?
Well, actually, last August. Sometimes I'm still kind of, say what I cannot say we, but obviously my mandate overlaps community safety. So I'm well aware of business liaison, which Kelowna RCMP has, a dedicated business liaison officer. Also well aware of community policing, and those are important factors to guide the policing to enforcing where the enforcements are needed.
Yeah, the big thing, and we used to have a business downtown too, is that the businesses aren't equipped to handle, like I can remember calling in many times, we have 6 or 7 people in your alcove, and you call to see if you can get help, and then the DKA or whatever says that's your private business there, that's your private property, we can't do anything about that. But the businesses aren't equipped to handle that. And then the RCMP obviously won't respond to that type of stuff. So what are businesses supposed to do? And where's the support from the NDP? Like, broken windows, like these are small things. We did a story on a pizza place. 3 broken windows in a month, $1,000 a window, and they're basically stealing Coca-Cola in that. And the sad thing is the consequences of their actions for the people stealing the Coca-Cola are better than their current situation. So it's a tough thing to kind of deal with. But what do businesses do?
No, I agree, Jim. But you might be aware that I did visit Kelowna sometime this summer. I met your Mayor Dias, council, as well as the RCMP and business leaders. And I'm well aware of the property crime, graffiti, and community safety disorders. Versus just the public safety side of it. So it's important that businesses, the small ones or big ones, can actually sustain themselves over time because they can't lose money. So that's what the latest program that the province launched, that launched earlier, was the C-STEP program. Is the mouthful is Community Safety and Targeted Enforcement Program. It's $5 million in there, and so far, we are seeing some changes in places like Terrace. That last week they had a report, 79 arrests attributed to the C-STEP program. So what we're trying to do is making sure that repeat offenders who keep coming back for property crimes, theft, graffiti, vandalism, are being addressed. as the mayor said, it's important to target the repeat offenders. The one-off, once in every two blue moon, is not as big a concern as the people keep coming back. If I was a business owner, I wouldn't want the same person to keep coming back without any kind of consequences. So the programs in place we have are targeting repeat offenders and making sure that they are being held accountable, and that the province, in conjunction working the city and the RCMP, will actually focus on the handful of repeat offenders, as we all know, that responds to quite a majority of criminal offenses.
Will the NDP lend its support to Mayor Tom Dias's letter to Sean Fraser and ask for bail reform?
Actually, I had the same conversation with the mayor, and I agree that we cannot afford to have the same repeat offenders out at large while awaiting dispositions. And I think the federal government has also indicated the fact that they are going to take a review in the Bail Reforms Act. I think we need to protect the general public from repeat offenders, even while they're being charged and waiting dispositions. We cannot afford to have the same offenders out there at large committing same offenses while they're waiting court decisions. So I personally support Mayor Diaz. And if you look at the province also advocating the same changes through our Attorney General, for our Premier, we actually want to make sure that the Bail Reform Acts are reflective of our current needs and the needs of our communities.
You say you guys have committed about $5 million for C-STEP. The government has poured millions into safe supply, decriminalization, and housing initiatives, but like a lot of the businesses have felt kind of like abandoned and not helped, right? And especially when the NDP has introduced many new taxes, and I could go through a list of things, but I think you're well aware of all the things. But it seems like, and the mood from businesses, that they're left to kind of their own devices in it, and they're not equipped to deal with it. Like, the constant shoplifting and stuff like that. Like they've also trained their staff not to engage because, like, stealing something is one thing, but then, if you confront and then their knife comes out and stuff like that, nobody wants that either, right? So.
No, obviously, business employees and business owners have to be safe. And that's our number one concern and priority. But the same situation, challenges facing Kelowna are being faced by many cities across the province, including close to home in Vancouver. So we are taking a look at, first of all, what needs to be done. So we work in conjunction with the local police jurisdictions, could be Vancouver Police, could be RCMP, detachment, to look at who are the repeat offenders responsible for majority of the chaos and disorder. And once we figure that out, and we have a reboy program in place since 2023, targeting people that are doing that. So once the first step, as a former police officer, looking who are causing the disorders, who are responsible for this, and we can find out a handful or 20 plus offenders that keep coming back, keep committing the same offenses. How are we going to make sure that we can keep the public safe and also hold the offenders, the repeat offenders especially, accountable for their actions?
Decriminalization, that's an NDP policy that was supported by the Liberals. It's kind of a pilot study. That ends in January, I believe, of 2026, and it's been scaled back. The police chiefs have publicly withdrawn their support of that. You were all, an active member. Do you think when that gets pulled back that it'll actually help, like curtail some of the crime that happens in the property crime and that happens in the downtown areas, or make people feel safer in downtown areas?
I think in terms of community safety and social disorder, any reflective pause or any change in policy that we can take a look at to bring along the changes we need is going to be productive. I can't, predict the future, but I think the reason we make changes along the way is to make sure the programs we have in place are effective. They're addressing the core issues. If they're not, then obviously you have to take a look at why they're not working and what else we can do. Obviously, the Association of Chief Police, have made a recommendation, and the province always working closely with police leaders across the province to actually address, as they're the enforcing agencies, what we can help. Not only in terms of police jurisdiction like the RCMP or municipal police, but also municipalities. And I want to also thank Mayor Dias, but his council and his leadership has been extremely productive, working along with the province to look at where the gaps are. I actually had a conversation last week with his staff. Okay, how are we doing in Kelowna? What can we do in addition to what we're doing? And that bill reform federally, the advocacy is part of that came up. And I'm really happy that the mayor is lending his voice along with the province to make sure we do have meaningful changes in bill reform reviews to actually benefit and make Canadians feel safer across the country.
Yeah, we're going to pull up that map here. If you can put that up there, just to show you that Kelowna, again, number one in per 100,000 people for property crime. Not a good stat to be. Even Vancouver's lower at 6, and Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and it seems like that I don't know why we're number one, but you can take that down. Your counterpart, your critic, is Eleanor Sturko, also a former police officer. She seems to think that the drug decriminalization definitely played a bigger role in kind of like the chaos in the streets of the way the businesses look at it anyway. Where do you, what's your viewpoint on that?
Well, I think enforcement always will be an underpinning response to crime. But having said that, we have to look at integrated services. What else can we do to lessen the load on law enforcement? Could it be housing? Could it be,
The wraparound,
addiction,
the
wraparound
wraparound services.
services?
Yeah.
Exactly. And also in terms of same secure care. So, and I said before, and I'll say it again, public disorder is not just a policing issue. We need other ministries across government to actually lend a hand to solving those issues. And I understand, I mean, I've been to Kelowna numerous occasions. It's a beautiful place to visit. I think it's one of the top 10 tourist destinations in the country, let alone BC. And property crime is a concern. That's why the province listened, and I launched the C-STEP program, which is targeted non-violent crime that are property crime focused, to look at how we can help retailers and businesses actually turn the dial back and have some meaningful changes so they can actually have a vibrant community to do business with and they save to go to work. And we continue to work closely with the officer in charge in Kelowna RCMP and the detachment, as well as city, the mayor, to make sure we are closing any gaps. And I am optimistic that we are going to go improve on this. We know where we need to go. We know street disorder is a major concern impacting everyone concerned. And we heard that loud and clear. It's not just in Kelowna, it's across many cities in BC. And we're going to continue to do that, closing the gaps and making sure we restore confidence and safety in communities across the province and bringing the change that we need.
Do you work closely with Eleanor Sturko? She's your critic. Do you share information with her? Do you ask her for ideas? Is that something where you kind of like find a bipartisan way to work together on an issue that is so big for British Columbians' safety in downtowns and for the businesses?
Well, absolutely. We're former colleagues. I was the Vancouver Police Department member. She's our CMP. I consider her a personal friend. Obviously, I said it before, I said at the House that I welcome all ideas. I mean, the government cannot just operate on our own accord. We need feedback. That's why I have a safety tour across cities in BC to listen to not only mayor and council, not only the police agencies in question, but also the business leaders, the people out there in the front. What do they face every day? And what can we do as a province on the provincial level to help minimize some of those gaps? And the short answer is
Accountability.
yes.
Yeah. Accountability is a big thing, and I do thank you for coming on here and in talking to us too. We're a local media outlet, independent media outlet, and I do thank you for spending the time with us. And accountability is also releasing of stats, and we've seen governments, both federal and provincial, kind of like keep their stats when we actually have, like the opposition parties having to file FOIs for information. Shouldn't the information flow between the parties so that they can be helpful? Because this is a big problem for communities. This is not a partisan problem. This is like a community problem. So the sharing information, the willing to be accountable, and again, I commend you for coming on here and being held accountable. I appreciate that as well. What do you think that role of accountability plays, though, for both parties to kind of share information?
Well, I think it's important that we make information available to the public. As a matter of fact, my home agency until last summer, Vancouver Police Department, we have Geodash. We have on the website, they actually show you the crime stats in different neighborhoods. And I think it's important to us to have timely feedback from the public and also from reports from 911, from police incidents, to look at where the map, where the hot zone in the area in a particular city. So which part of the city in Kelowna is getting hit by public disorder, by theft, by vandalism, by mischiefs. So I think as a former police officer, that's what I would go to work in the morning and look at the hot zones and the overnight serious incidents and look at how we're going to dedicate our resources and focus our programs to enforce those areas that might have gaps in enforcement. And how can we do better? We can always do better.
Yeah, well, and I've talked to many members all the time, but a lot of them say they're muzzled lots of times and they can't speak to the, to the media and that stuff. Is it, you've been a member for a long time, and do you, and you've talked, and I'm sure you're still talking with many of the members on the force, they share with you, because I'm sure they're trying to bring stuff to light for you. Do you think we should be taking the muzzle off, at least on the like the more senior staff, instead of just the PR person that comes to the podium all the time?
Well, I think, the public wants to hear the truth. And I think, also we have whistleblower policies in place to make sure the public interest is protected, even within government. And I wholly support that. I think it's also, I bring along a first response perspective to cabinet. I was a practitioner. I practice the trade. So I don't teach it. So what happens is if you give me a map to go from A to D, I'm going to find out where's B and C. I can't just go from A to D overnight any more than anybody else can do. So I want to look at the issue in hand and what do we need to address those issues and how we're going to go about having a plan to get there, because we can't get there without a plan.
Yeah, I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything you want to add? I know you're on vacation right now and you did call in, so that's very, very much appreciated. And Minister, if there's anything else you want to add, feel free to have a message for the communities and for the downtowns and for all the businesses in British Columbia here.
Jim, help is on the way, and I want to thank you, Jim, for giving me the time to actually tell you what government is doing. A lot of times it's easy to focus on the issues and be doom and gloom, and I've been there. But I think we have to believe, and I know the mayor in Kelowna, he does believe that we can make a difference. We are able to bring the change that we need, because failing that, the government is not really, doing a mandate. We have to be responsible and responsive to the people out there running the business every day, growing the economy, providing jobs, and making Kelowna a vibrant place to live and work and visit, which I believe still is.
Again, we appreciate your time, Minister Young, and you go ahead and enjoy the rest of your vacation, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again. Again, thank you very much.
Have a great day, Jim. Thank you.
We do thank you for watching Now Media.
Thank you.
We just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.